our chat, and it was a compilation of people pretending to be Uganda Knuckles.
The only thing about Uganda Knuckles that was really funny was that there was that many of them doing it, and all like in unison with the various noises and shit they did.
Yeah, that whole tongue clicking thing I found a little pretty annoying, but yeah,
It's
to me it
definitely an
definitely was
irritating
annoying.
noise, yeah. Did you ever see when they would do the THX sound test?
No, what is that?
One of them would start going, and then they'd all start joining in, and it sounded like when you're in the theater and you see that THX logo and it does the bass test, or it's just a rising bass tone that gets louder. They would do that, and it actually sounded pretty good.
Wait, THX?
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
I know what you're talking about.
Sound system.
It's like that thing that would sometimes come on before movies that I remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know what you're talking about. That does sound kind of funny.
Yeah, they had a few things that were really funny. People just chose to focus on the wrong parts of that bit.
To me, it's like what I didn't get about it was, I'm trying to remember. It was like how exactly it became associated with Knuckles, the whole Uganda thing.
I actually know the origin.
You gonna tell me or not?
Dramatic pause. I guess it started with these two guys, they're just buddies, and they were playing the VR chat, and they had that Knuckles skin. And, you know, and they picked it out because they thought it was funny, so they're looking at it, and I guess one of them had seen this movie, and I forget what it's called, but the movie's got a whole bunch of characters that are from Uganda, so they have that accent. And one of the famous lines that always gets quotes is, "My Bruda, do you know the way?" And I guess one of them just said that line because he had just seen the movie, and it made them both laugh so hard that they just started going up to other people and doing it, and it just caught on. And all of a sudden, the Knuckles Ugandan tribe was born.
It's like sometimes it is funny, but I'm just thinking, I'm like, man, the meme itself is like some of the lines and quotes are funny, just not the fact that it's associated with Knuckles. And it's like not out of no hate or anything. I just thought, like, why Knuckles? That was the only thing I kept asking about it.
Well, that all stemmed from just a goofy drawing somebody did, and then somebody else animated that goofy drawing singing, which started the Singing Knuckles meme, and then yeah, they just adapted it from the Singing Knuckles meme.
Yeah, but I remember some of the lines like, "Why are you running?" or "You do not know the way." I find those pretty funny. I remember there was actually a scene from that show or movie where they was showing one guy asking that line as a woman was running away, even though technically she wasn't really scared of him. And I remember watching that scene. It was hilarious, and how he just came out of the limo asking, "Why are you running?" And yeah, I can't really explain it because it's been a while since I last watched it, but it was funny.
I've seen the scene, and it's the two women are hookers, and that dude is their pimp.
Oh, that's what it is?
Yeah, and the only reason they were trying to get away was because he wanted the money, and like I don't know what had happened, but one of them had fucked up or something, and they didn't have the money, and they knew he was going to be mad.
Oh yeah, I didn't even know they were hookers, because considering the fact that they were able to walk away without him doing anything to him, or without him doing anything to them. Because I'm like,
now
usually hookers
I might be misunderstood on that, but apparently the scene does have, like, they knew who he was, and they owed him something. Maybe it not necessarily wasn't a prostitute and pimp. That might have been just something I saw, but yeah, that's all that scene was. Why are you running? And she's in high heels too. She ain't going nowhere.
And I always question a woman's ability to wear high heels. Because I'm like, man, there's no way that you can walk in that. That just looks so damn uncomfortable. But they do it.
That's like a martial arts aspect right there, man. Being able to balance yourself in footwear like that.
And it's like for me, I can kind of sort of like balance on the front of my feet, but to be able to just walk everywhere like that,
Yeah, that requires incredibly strong ankle and foot muscles and calf muscles.
yeah, even with those heels, that just looks so uncomfortable.
Actually, I imagine high heels have their origin with ballerinas, because with the ballerinas, they gotta be able to stand up on their toes. So I'm guessing the shoe was designed to just help them keep their feet in that position.
Yeah, but still, to me, it seems like kind of pointless to wear those. Especially, I see a lot of women wearing them, but as soon as they get the opportunity to take them off, they take them off immediately. They're like, "Oh, I'm glad to get out of these." I'm like, "Sheesh, why not wear something more comfortable? Don't they have like open-toed shoes that aren't freaking high heels?"
Yeah, but high heels make their legs look amazing, and for whatever reason, when you're standing like that, it makes your chest pop out more too, so it makes your boobs look better too.
Oh, please! I've seen plenty of women who look better that way without having to wear high heels.
I am disagreeing. I'm just sharing the information I've got.
I know, and I was
women
just
that
saying
way.
in general.
Yeah. Yeah, no, a lot of women go to a lot of trouble that they really don't need to go to just because that's the style. Well, I mean, a lot of people go to trouble they don't need to go to because that's the style. It's not limited to just women. I think women just kind of suffer a bit more than other groups when it comes to that.
Yeah, because for whatever reason, society just demands it more from women.
Yeah.
Like that sort of running gag, sort of half truth about women taking much longer than men about when getting ready. I think I remember a comedian doing a joke on that once, talking about how a woman would take literal hours just to get ready to go somewhere, even if they're only going somewhere for maybe a few minutes or just going out for a walk. Whereas a man would just take a few minutes, and that's just on any given casual day.
Yeah, but the math is there. For example, women will do a gazillion more things to their hair than a man will. Men generally don't put up anywhere near the amount of makeup women do, and that's, you know, an artistic project in itself. And then, I don't know if you've seen the specifics of a lot of women's clothing, but the way it's designed, that shit is confusing. Fucking clasps and zippers and strings all over the goddamn place and straps overlapping. Like, I do the laundry, and my wife has some shirts I have no frickin' idea how to fold because there's no starting point. There's nowhere to just fold it in half. So I usually crumple it in the ball and throw it at her when I see her. Telling her she's wearing Rubik's cubes. Seriously, man, women's fashion. Like, seriously, they're puzzle makers.
Yeah, and what kind of bugs me a little bit is that there are some guys I see out there who try to do the same thing. I don't mean like trying to dress in feminine clothing or dress like women, but they try to come up with some complex fashion to look good. I was like, man, I may not be the most beautiful person in the world, but I feel like even I can take a plain shirt and just make it look good.
I've seen your picture, dude. You've got the looks.
Are you flirting with me?
No, I mean it in a totally platonic heterosexual manner. I'm just acknowledging that you have handsome features.
Sheesh, I wonder what other synonymous big words you were gonna try to use.
Platonic is the opposite of romance. It's when you can have a friendship or love, but it's not a romantic one. It's just one of, I appreciate you.
Yeah, I know what platonic is. You think I'm not
okay.
smart enough to know what it is?
Confused on? I don't know what words you know.
Hey, who are you raising your voice there like that? Don't you know I'm the YouTuber here? You may have banned so many people from my channel, but I could ban you as well.
Yeah, but you backed me into a corner. What did you want me to do?
I didn't even know I did. I didn't even know I had that capability. Fear me.
You've definitely got a good level of confidence in your speaking and your voice. I have a feeling you could make people listen to you if you wanted to.
Yeah, because I
Like,
remember
you know,
one
in,
of the
in an
things.
emergency or something.
I remember it was one of my teachers when I was at school, and I remember she told me because she asked me to read a passage in a book reading for the class, and I remember she just complimented on my voice, saying I had like what they call a DJ's voice.
Yeah, yeah, I would say you could do the DJ voice thing if you wanted.
And I don't know, I just felt that was weird because that was the first time anyone ever complimented my voice like that. I think there was other women. It was like every time I had someone compliment my voice, it was women, and that teacher was the first one who I could remember immediately to say that about my voice. Sounded like a real DJ's voice. Like
I
seriously,
mean,
she
you're
had no
no Barry
problem
White,
saying
but you
that
got
right
the
in front of the
baritone.
class. Wait, what'd
Oh,
you say?
a good teacher. I said a good teacher would do stuff like that. Encouragement in front of everyone. Yeah, that's a good thing. And I said you ain't no Barry White, but you've definitely got the baritone to your voice.
Very white.
That dude's voice has got to be the deepest thing on earth. I
I
read
got.
an interview with Barry White once where somebody asked, like, so obviously you weren't born with the deep voice. You know, how old were you, and what happened when your voice cracked and it went that deep? He goes, I went to bed one night with a child's voice. I woke up the next morning, went down to the kitchen, asked my mom what was for breakfast, and scared the shit out of us both.
I remember there was something like that they made light on or made a light joke on in the show iCarly, where one of the characters, Freddie Benson. I remember in the show originally he had a pretty light voice, only for him to come over to Carly's house in one of the episodes with a much deeper voice. And one of the characters, Sam, she asked him, she said, "Why is your voice so deep?" Or "What happened to your voice?" And he was like, "I don't know, puberty." It's like, man, it's funny how puberty can just sneak up right on you like that without you even knowing.
Oh, it can. And it hits some people real hard.
Yeah, I never really noticed like how my voice was changing over time. Well, because I don't really focus so much on it or pay that much attention.
Yeah, we usually all ignore our own voice because we hear it all the time.
I know, right? Like I kind of started noticing a couple of times how different my voice sounded as I was getting older. But I think it was only once I remember telling anyone about it. Wait, I forgot. What were we talking about before we talking about voices and whatnot?
Good question. Was it something nerdy? I'll bet you it was something nerdy.
Oh yeah, we were talking about when it came to women being able to wear high heels and walk around in them all day,
Yes.
and how women, or not just women, but I've seen some guys who try to put on so many different clothes, talking about looking fly or looking fresh. And I'm like, man, I could just take a plain shirt and make that look decent enough.
Yeah, some people are right into fashion.
I know the number of people who got on my case when I was in middle school about the clothes I wear, always talking about how the clothes I have either don't match or they don't look good. Some of them saying they were gonna go buy me some new clothes to wear or some other stupid shit like that. And I remember one girl
Bitch, it's
talking.
middle school.
I remember one girl who got on my case about a shirt I had, calling it a girl's shirt. And the thing is, it was literally a black and white shirt. It had some kind of specific pattern on the front, but nothing that was feminine in the slightest bit, and it had a hoodie attached to it. That's like the first and only shirt I ever wore that was like that, with a hoodie attached to it. And she over here talking about calling it a girl's shirt.
Probably just because of the black and white pattern. I do know that, I forget when, but there was a particular point in women's fashion where black and white paneling was a big thing. And so
Well,
you'll
I knew
get
for a
some
fact that it
people who
wasn't a
just see
girl's
that
shirt.
and figure, yeah. Well,
Like,
again, she probably saw the pattern, and in her mind, that was enough to make it a girl's shirt. Never mind how it's cut or the fact that it fits you.
Yeah, I think she was just trying to get on my case because she just hated me. She was like one of those people who had what I call an obsessive hatred. And I remember for the longest time I used to use that as a term without even knowing if other people would bring that up. But I remember looking it up online, and it turns out that is an actual term. Just that you don't hear a lot of people use it. But definitely it's a word I use to describe a lot of people. Well, not a lot, but quite a few people I knew who personally had a obsessive hatred with me. Like, obviously they would never admit it. They'll probably come up with some stupid excuse. Most people with an obsessive hatred usually would. But I remember that girl from middle school. She definitely had that sort of obsessive hatred. Always trying to get on my case about what I wore. And I remember in science class, she always tried to start some shit with me for no reason. I remember one time she put her hands on me, and I just slapped her hand. All I did was slap her hand away. But then her boyfriend heard about it, and he got mad and said, I remember we ran into each other in the bathroom. He didn't confront me in there. And I remember the first thing he said was, "Man, I ought to kick your ass." And I'm like, "What did I do?" And he said how I hit his girlfriend. And I said I only hit her. I only slapped her hand away because she put her hands on me first. And he was like, "That doesn't matter. You don't go hitting girls." And it's like, looking at this guy, I can almost guarantee you he's the kind of person who has no problem hitting girls himself if the situation calls for it.
Yeah, it's just one of those dudes that'll say whatever he needs to say, for his situation.
Yeah, because I figured he was only just saying that because it was his girlfriend who I ended up hitting. But if it was any other girl, he probably wouldn't even give a shit. Trying to act all, chivalrous or manly about it, whatever.
Nah, more like masochistic. Chivalry died a long time ago.
Yeah, there's some guys who still say it exists, and how any man who says chivalry died is unmanly themselves. And I'm like, that's not us being unmanly, that's us being realistic.
I challenge anyone who considers themselves to be chivalrous, go out in public and be chivalrous and see where it gets you.
Yeah, try to be chivalrous all the time.
It's not dead because people don't want to be chivalrous anymore. It's dead because it doesn't. It usually gets a negative reaction.
I know, and it's like a lot of times, and they say that part of the reason why chivalry is dead is because women killed it, and I'm like, yeah, that is pretty much the case. Not really. That's not really me saying that as a what was it, masochist or not a misogynist thing. It's just that I just seen it so many times where a guy would do something nice for a woman or give her a compliment, and she thinks, oh, he's just trying to flirt with me. He's just trying to get something from me. And I'm like, all that guy did was just say something nice.
Yeah, sometimes guys are just saying something nice to say something nice. That's it.
Yeah. Or it could be that a guy would do something. Well, what else would he do that I could think of? Like hold open a door for a woman, and she would get upset thinking, "Oh, you think I can't open the door for my damn self or something?" And he's like, "No, I'm just doing it just to be nice."
Yeah, I don't hold the door for just women. I hold the door for anyone.
Yeah. And for me, growing up, I've always heard too often some women who will say how, like, some woman will expect a guy to do something for them, and the guy will be like, "Wait a minute, why do I have to do this or do that?" And she said, "It's the man's job to." Or what was another one? Oh yeah, it was actually on YouTube. Some videos on YouTube. Some people discussing about the importance of paying for a date, like for at least for food, for a meal, and some guys believe that they'll be willing to pay for the first one, but after a while they believe the woman should be more than willing to chip in as well.
That's for sure.
and there was like some women who were disagreeing, and one woman would say she would offer to pay for it, but if the man accepts her offer, then she will break up with him immediately, saying, I think we should see new people. Saying that the whole point of a woman asking is that she would ask, and she would expect him to say no simply because it's the right thing to do, or it's the manly thing to do. And I'm like, if you're not gonna, wait, should we be talking about something like this while I'm live streaming? Because you know all them feminist or SJWs might hear this and might get mad.
Well, I mean, it's probably not the safest topic, but I don't think either of us have said anything unfair or extreme.
Yeah. Well, I think we talked about more grotesque things before. Anyways, oh fuck! Now I remember what I was gonna do with Black Hub. Where was I? Oh yeah, I'm thinking. Wait, so if you're not gonna pay for the meal or chip in any way, why even bother bringing up the idea? Because it's like one thing I tell myself that I can't stand is someone who's just nothing but a constant tease. Like teasing the idea of something, whether if it's something sexual or not, and then when the person goes after it, they'll be all like, nope, or sometimes they'll try to shame them for it. And I'm thinking, what's the point of teasing the idea or even offering if you're not gonna pay for it? Saying it's just a test. Like we men don't need no freaking test to find out if we're worthy or not. Like I just went through the trouble of bringing you all the way out here. All the way out here to some fancy restaurant or some nice place to take you get something to eat. The least you can do is pay half. Or maybe 40 or 30% of it.
Everyone seems to forget the whole who pays for the meal thing is based on economy. The only reason men used to pay all the time was because generally women didn't have jobs, as that was just how it was in the day. And then it turned into, well, who pays? Usually the richest person, because it's not any skin off their nose. Like it's not supposed to be a tradition. It's all just based on who's got what money.
Yeah, that's almost exactly what it is. And I'm like, if you're just teasing the idea of doing something that involves money, then, well, I'm trying to remember how I said this, because I'm trying to remember the exact words I used. Saying, because I keep telling myself the only women who have any business teasing me but never giving me entirely what I want will be strippers or what did I say? I think hookers. And I said that if you're just going to be acting like this, then technically you're no better than a prostitute.
That is true.
Oh yeah, now I remember why I said that. Point. I said that because it was a video I watched about a woman who was quoting Chris Rock about why men are always expected to pay for dates and women shouldn't pay a thing at all, or why men should be paying 100% for everything. And she said how it's like Chris Rock said in one of his comedy skits, how dick is free, but pussy is expensive. And I'm like, so wait, you expect me to pay all this money, buy you all these things, and pay all of this money, and you think I'm only doing it just purely for sexual favors? Because if that's the kind of mentality you have, then how exactly are you any different from a prostitute?
Yeah, it's pretty funny when technicalities are laid out on the table. Oh well, I guess all we can do individually is try our best.
Yeah, but there's no denying how much bullshit it is.
Oh no, absolutely no denying it. It's all about just how to deal with it.
Yeah, that's why when I see those kind of guys who are truly happily married, it's not like one's using the other to just get what they want. They truly have a equal sort of relationship. Then I say congratulations to those two.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
Because I consider my marriage to be that.
Yeah, because I have no idea what your wife is like, but considering the fact that you're married in the first place and you sound like a guy who's got some sense, then I can only assume the marriage is good so far.
Oh yeah. We started out as best friends first, and then fell in love.
You will submit.
Yeah, because I always tell myself that people who only marry someone for their money or for some materialistic gain, you know those kind of marriages are doomed to fail at some point.
No, it's not really a marriage, it's a business agreement.
Exactly. The whole marriage aspect is just so they can use whatever technicality or anything else like that legally. They can use that to their advantage somehow. Should things not go as they hope.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, that's that evil, deceitful stuff right there.
I do not care for it myself. Man, when you really know what you're doing at Injustice, the game just looks so brutal with the combos.
Oh wait, that's you watching it? I figured.
Yeah, I'm still watching.
And I don't even play Wonder Woman all that much either.
No, I mean, that goes for any of your characters, especially Swamp Thing. Like, you look at it, and the combos you do, and somehow, how is he even doing that? I don't get it.
I know. I remember one time I was live streaming Dead or Alive, and I was playing through survival mode. And I remember one of the things you typed was, man, just looking at that made my fingers hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, definitely, it's going to feel that way when you play games like Dead or Alive. Well, usually, I think there's more buttons you end up pressing in a 3D fighting game compared to a 2D fighter.
Oh, yeah. Well, because 3D fighter games, you've got movement to consider, not just your attacks.
Exactly. But I can't remember. I'm trying to remember a game that I could think of that actually did make my fingers hurt from playing it. I think the only one I can think of is Tekken, since you have 4 buttons to attack with, unlike other 3D games I played, in which it's like you have 1 punch button, 1 kick button, and 1 guard button, and any other button combinations like punching, guard, or a punching kick are usually labeled on different on the R1 and R2 and L1 and L2 buttons, or bumper and trigger buttons, I should have said. Whereas with Tekken, you just have both punches and both kicks, or a button for each of them. And as far as button combinations, you gotta map that stuff out yourself, or customize that yourself from the beginning.
Hey, here's a random thought. Would a One Punch Man video game have only 1 punch button?
Well, no, you would need more than one. Wait, you mean as in 1 attack button?
No, One Punch Man, 1 punch button.
Okay, because I was thinking, I'm like, if he only has just 1 punch, how's he supposed to move around? Gonna need the analog stick for that.
It was just a word play, and you took it to a technical aspect. Because yes, you're right, you would need more than 1 attack button.
Well, no, you technically would just need that 1 attack button, but I thought it was like, as far as controls in general. I'm like, but wait, if he has just that 1 punch, how's he gonna move around?
No, he can still have a movement stick with his 1 punch button.
Yeah, it's just kind of unfortunate how One Punch Man is that sort of series where it's great to watch and read, but as far as if you made a game about it, the only way to make a game that wouldn't last just a few minutes or a few seconds would be... Damn, how would you do that?
Well, you just, like any fighting game, you just balance it out and give everybody their moves.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
as far
I
as
mean, if
fighting
you're at-
games,
if-
but I mean, if it was like an action RPG, the only way to do that is by having you play as anyone but One Punch Man.
Or, I guess, in One Punch Man, it would be kind of like it's the same concept for a good Superman video game. It's not about having a life bar or strength, because yes, you're gonna win. You're One Punch Man. 1 punch is all it's gonna take, but you gotta use strategy to minimize, like, city damage, and, like, you have to protect people. So it doesn't really matter if you're getting hit, it's what's going on around you.
Oh yeah, how just one punch, just the force of the punch could cause almost a whole lot of damage around you. So it's not just a matter of if you hit your opponent, but how much force.
Exactly, and if you're on a stage or in an area where it's like, by the way, if this building breaks, you lose. Well, now you can't use the absolute strongest attack because it'll blow that building away.
Yeah, because that's one thing I noticed about One Punch Man. He's supposed to be a superhero, well, as he calls himself, a superhero for fun. But usually that's just what he does. He just goes around and punching or killing any enemy he fights, as opposed to, I don't know, running inside a burning building and saving anyone. I can't remember any time I saw him actually do that.
Yeah, there's a few moments where they imply that he's doing stuff like that. But yeah, the stuff they show is just the like, you can't hurt me, you can't hurt me, oh look, I hit you really hard.
Hey,
Flip,
only
works as a comedy.
Have you checked to see if the chat is working?
I can check right now. Let us see if it posts. Totally forgot to do that when you started.
I need to get me one of these loadouts with reverse flash. I keep forgetting to do that.
Chat does not seem to be posting.
Fuck!
Oh, well then I'm gonna say it's not an issue on your end. It's gotta be something between Sony and YouTube itself.
I actually just remembered the fact that both Barry Allen and Cheetah are on that canon list DC did for the top 10 fastest. I still rewatch that video every now and then. Because for some reason,
question about that.
What was that?
With the top 10, are they just stating like max movement speed, or are they talking reflexes and maneuvering speed as well?
Well, no, technically they just say who the character. No, they just say why that character is on that place in the list, and that's really about it. They just explain what it is that makes that character so fast.
So here's an idea. How about give us a list of their running speed in actual like miles per hour? And, you know,
yeah,
like,
but if you want a video like that, if you want a video like that, you'd have to look up that character individually and look up like their max movement and other stuff like that. Because every time someone does an analysis video, it's always for that one character specifically. DC made that list. It was just to show who's the top 10 fastest in the universe and why this character's on this list but not higher on the list. Like for instance, Shazam, talking about why he's only number 9. Despite technically, some people felt like he should have been higher. Some others, like the guy who hosted the video on Variant Comics, he said he was kind of surprised. He thought Shazam would be a little higher on the list, like right next to or right behind Superman. And I was like, yeah, I thought Shazam himself would have been higher on the list too, but apparently that's not the case.
Oh well, it doesn't matter. None of them are faster than Sonic the Hedgehog.
I actually remember one guy telling me how Sonic the Hedgehog is in fact faster than the Flash, or at least Barry Allen. And he said the only reason why Sonic doesn't run any faster than he already does is because he's an environmentalist.
Well, Sonic's a little bit easier because his speed is based a little bit more on reality. Like, just base Sonic, yes, he can go faster than the speed of sound. Maybe not considerably faster, but he can definitely break the sound barrier. And then when he powers up, whether it's the Chaos Emeralds or whatever thing based on what Sonic universe, I think he's supposed to be able to go faster than light.
Yeah, I think that's specifically with Super Sonic.
Yeah, with the Chaos Emeralds. I don't know. I wish these fiction writers with comic books and all that, I wish they would have taken physics into account and just recorded certain things based on actual physical math. Would have made discussions a lot easier.
Yeah, that's why me and my friend, when we was writing our fiction for the Chaos or Odd Squad series, that's why I made it where with my character, he can go faster than the speed of sound. And he has the potential to go faster than the speed of light. It's just that literally if he goes any faster than the speed of sound, like approaching light speed, then literally everything becomes a blur around him. Because you know, like how with a lot of speedsters, literally everything around them slows down around them, or sometimes it looks like nothing's moving at all, or coming to a standstill, as they call it. Well, with my character, it doesn't work that way. For Chaos Man, literally everything's moving at the same speed as it normally does. And that's why
so his perception doesn't speed up.
Yes. So he may be able to move fast, but literally everything becomes a blur, and he gets forced into moving to the sort of straight line because he can't maneuver if he's moving so fast. Part of the reason why he only goes so fast because literally everything would become a blur, and he doesn't want to risk running into anyone or anything.
Yeah, see, there you go. Stuff like that. If you just set certain little rules like that that just explain what would physically happen when they're doing stuff, it makes it easier. It would make it easier to write the stories, too. Because, I mean, the Flash, the Speed Force does something that prevents friction with the air. So he can go those speeds, but he doesn't have to worry about causing a nuclear explosion because he's moving. There's so much friction between him and the air around him.
Yeah, that's why for me, that's why kind of a rule that me and my friend, he and I came up with for when talking about the Odd Squad, is how there's this sort of well, I don't want to say power without limit, but anyone with powers of some sort, it has to come from some kind of source, or we didn't really think of it being based we weren't thinking about it being based heavily on reality. Just more of just making it easier to explain how this ability works or that ability works. Because as far as the sort of speedster we have, there's one character on the Odd Squad team who has super speed, but it comes from using, well, he and I agreed it becomes from these sort of shoes he wears that allows him to speed up. And damn, I just forgot how basic and linear Bane's combos are. Seriously, the only way to give him any longer combos is with these special moves you unlock for him. That's kind of unfortunate. So the sort of quote-unquote speedster on their team, who they name Speed, basically his powers just come from using the sort of technological shoes that he wears that allows him to move so fast.
And see, that's fine, because then obviously the shoes have whatever gizmos or what have you that would be needed to give him the speed and let him survive the speed. And that's a decent enough explanation.
Exactly. Because
yeah, the explanations don't need to be super detailed. They just need to at least give you a grasp as to, oh, okay, well, I understand the concept of what's happening.
Yeah, and I feel like that's sort of an issue a lot of comic book writers make for themselves. Why oftentimes that hero has to have either a villain or be forced into situations where either they can't use this power because this or that might happen, or they're like, oh, I have this weakness or that weakness. Basically, giving these characters so many powers or making them so strong that it's hard to write a situation or an opponent that's actually challenging.
That's why, that's where Kryptonite came from. They made Superman too powerful, he had no weaknesses, and so finally somebody said, well, what if a bad guy had a magic rock that just screwed him over?
Yeah, it's not even a magic. Well, they also made him vulnerable to magic, but yeah, obviously, like, we know Kryptonite's not magic, but they decided, like, but wait, where does the Kryptonite come from? Well, it's got to come from somewhere. Well, it's called kryptonite,
Yeah,
so let's
and
just
then,
say
of
it's from
course-
his home planet. So that way, no matter how powerful Superman gets, we'll just say, oh, this villain he's going up against, like Lex Luthor, that got kryptonite on him. Or someone like Mr. Mixoplex, whatever the fuck, that little leprechaun guy from that fourth dimension, he's got magic.
Yeah, I
that-
know who you're talking about. And I know you can't see your chat, so I will let you know that it's your boy Arby has just said yo in the chat.
Oh, wait, what's his name? It's your boy Arby?
It's your boy Arby.
Oh, well, hello.
Yeah,
keep forgetting
it's your boy Arby.
meter
You'll
does
have
not
to
carry over from
excuse
you.
us. We have no idea why his chat won't display on his screen for him.
Because YouTube's being a real bitch right now.
Yeah, we've already tried troubleshooting a bunch.
Yeah, don't tell YouTube I said that. I don't want them copyright claiming me or copy claiming, whatever. Copyright claim, copy striking, whatever. They got so many different names for it nowadays. But when it came to me and my friend talking about the Odd Squad, we always established how all of them each, well, anyone who has powers, that power's got to come from some kind of source or have some kind of drawback to it. Has this power that lets him adapt to any situation, not like his body mutating or anything, but more like, for instance, if he finds himself underwater, suddenly he's able to hold his breath for a lot longer than usual, or how his strength added, but not to the sort of levels that Chaos Man has. And that's why when I was thinking about what kind of weaknesses my character would have, I said my character would be weak to light energy, and how he needs blood in order to keep Chaos fed, otherwise she will start feeding on him.
I did like your whole system for that.
What, for Chaos Man?
Yeah.
Yeah, because obviously
it lends itself to good writing.
Because a lot of the characters we had in the Odd Squad series is literally just us, me, some of my friends. It's literally just us, but like fictionalized versions of ourselves. Because I remember that's how it started. That's how we got to making the Odd Squad. It was just us imagining our. No, it started with me and him when we role playing in games like. I'm trying to remember the very first game we started role playing in. I think it was Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1 was the first one. See, it was games like Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1, Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks, and you getting tired?
No, I just yawn a lot.
Okay. So Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1. Eventually we did 2. I'm trying to remember the very first ones we did. Ultimate Alliance 1, MK Shaolin Monks, and that's all. Those are the only ones I can remember us immediately doing that for. And for when we was playing Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks, I remember we kind of did a sort of, I want to say multiverse thing, where each game we appeared in that we roleplayed in was me and him somehow traveling from one universe to another. And I'm thinking, what if we did like just this one story explaining how Jason and Jacob are constantly going through all these different universes? And so the story we came up with, that we agreed on, was Nick Fury, or an evil version of Nick Fury, going around different universes, or from one multiverse to another, causing trouble somehow. And each universe was our attempt to stop him. At least that's how we did in Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks. I can't remember. I think it was him who came up with the idea of the villain being Nick Fury, or an evil version of Nick Fury. And somehow our adventure in Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks was us being summoned or asked by Lord Raiden to go and stop him. So basically, we replaced Shang Tsung with Nick Fury.
Yeah, it works.
And I remember we just got into it, coming up with our own little inside jokes, our own little origins for our characters. Like each realm we visited, we had some kind of history of it, or that we knew. Like his idea was, I remember when we first did our story, it was the original origin he came up with his character was that his dad was an evil scientist who experimented on him, and that's how he got some of his abilities, but was later dumped in a forest, had no idea where his mom was, and it was in that forest he was found by the X-Men, and by the forest we mean the living forest from Mortal Kombat, and he was found by the X-Men, and it was with the X-Men that he finally had a place to stay after being abandoned by his father when he was a kid. And I remember one of the funny things was he was like that sort of character who's not jumping back and forth, but going from one girlfriend to another. If I remember, I think first it was Jean Grey, and then Storm. And one of the funny things was as we were doing all this role playing, and so he paused the game and said, "Jason, man, we're fucking idiots, man. We need lives." Because we were doing so much role playing and all those games, despite the fact that he was already an adult. Like he was like 22 or 21, and I was already 17, getting close to 18. And I'm like, man, screw that. We have lives. Our lives just involve us having fun.
Yeah, and it's excellent creative exercise.
Well, I want to see if I can change the volume here, because I'm having a little bit of difficulty hearing you. I think maybe I just need to lower the volume on my system.
That or am I sounding better now?
Oh, you use a microphone? You don't use a headset?
No, I got the headset, but I can move the microphone around. It's on a bendy arm.
Okay, go ahead and speak.
Hello, I am speaking.
Shut up.
Okay.
Prioritize game chat. Prioritize part chat.
Shut up, Flip. You got it, boss.
What's that noise in the background?
I don't know. It sounds like...
Oh, I thought it was on your end because I was adjusting the microphone level. Alright, this should be good. But anyways, I remember we just had so much fun role-playing. Now, I can't remember how else, but I remember at some point we were also doing that sort of origin story while playing... Not origin story, but we were RPing other games like Soul Calibur. Except in Soul Calibur, the story we did for Soul Calibur for our characters was much different from... Well, we never came up with a name for the stories we did. I just called them the Odd Squad or Chaos series, but that's just what I started calling it after he and I left Job Corps, because we was in Job Corps at that time. So
You can call it a series of odd and chaotic adventures.
I remember me and him, we just call it well, I think he called it The Adventures of J&J, and I just call it the J&J Show.
Meh.
And I thought that just sounded funny, but at the same time it sounded cool since both of our names started with J. But I remember at some point we were also playing Call of Duty World at War, but we never really did the main story as far as multiplayer and role playing. It was just a zombie mode. So for the J&J series, we kept that separate when we were role playing Soul Calibur, and basically it was kind of like an alternate universe. It was kind of more of a bonus story we were doing on the side, while everything we did in every other game we played was the main series, or J&J. But at some point while we were role playing, we kind of, what's the proper saying? Hit a snag in the road where my character. No, it wasn't while playing Call of Duty. It was while we were playing Street Fighter Cross Tekken. And there's one ending in which the character Ogre, and his ending, he gets the box Pandora, but his body is, I don't know, I want to say it was absorbed by Pandora, but at the same time, I don't know, it was kind of weird. But anyways, in Ogre's ending, his body was absorbed by Pandora, and it just floated up into outer space. So we came up with the idea that was me sacrificing myself to stop the evil Nick Fury from using Pandora. And that's how and basically taking the box up into outer space, and it explodes as a result of me taking over it. And so we kind of agree that that's how my character dies. But then somehow I come back to life, but I become evil. And this was back when this was actually before we did the whole superpowers thing. It was more of a martial arts series. Mm-hmm. That's how originally we were doing it. Like just us, a couple of random guys going to these different worlds, different realms, different universes, trying to take down this evil alternate Nick Fury. And so technically it was in Street Fighter Cross Tekken, we were playing that game where he stopped him from using Pandora for whatever nefarious reasons. And my character ends up sacrificing himself. But then later on, my character comes back evil. And I believe it was around then, that's how I ended up coming up with the idea of my character possessing, or not possessing, but having the powers of chaos. We didn't really when it was getting into more of the superhero territory, we didn't really have that all worked out very well. Like we were still mostly just messing around with a few ideas. So anyways, after my character's apparent resurrection and becoming evil, we were technically starting to run out of ideas. Like we literally it just got to the point where it was just us constantly crossing over with all these different characters. And then at one point we came up with this idea, or I think it was I who came up with this idea of how this sort of crossover story involving all these different comic book companies like Marvel, DC, and a few video game characters just having this big old massive multiversal war between the heroes and the villains, with my character, now that he's evil, leading them, and his character somehow leading leading the heroes. But like I said, at some point we were just losing imagination. We were losing motivation to keep doing it.
Yeah, you just hit that spot where the writer's block really comes up.
What the hell?
That happens to any story that any story where you're getting a lot of development, you're gonna hit that crossroads where you're just not really sure where to go from there.
Yeah, and it was getting really annoying. Like at some points sometimes we would even do our little role play even when we're not playing games. But literally all it was like during breakfast, my character just coming in, talking to him just to taunt him and all that, saying how I'm gonna do this and do that, and his character's gonna be all like, don't you dare do that because I will kick your ass if you do. And my character constantly going, man, you've seen the kind of powers that I have and what I can do. There's no way you could possibly harm me. Like that's literally what it was constantly. Mm-hmm. And I could tell just by the way he was acting, he was losing interest in it as well. And yep. I didn't like this idea of my character just constantly being evil and us being at war with each other. It made some of the stories we did just awkward. So I said, hey man, I have an idea. What if, instead of my character dying at some point, what if we just, basically we decided to just reboot the whole thing. I'm like, what if instead we just reboot the whole thing? And he kind of liked the idea, so we decided to do that, just start over from a certain point. And he's like, so where should we start over? And I'm like, let's just start over from the point where we go out to defeat Nick Fury once and for all and stop it from using the powers of Pandora. And he's like, all right, I can go with that. And so instead of my character sacrificing himself, I can't remember how he did that part. I just remember somehow we were able to destroy the box and defeat Nick Fury. And I remember it was that we kind of revised our origins a bit, where instead of his dad being an evil scientist who left him out in the woods somewhere, his dad experimented on him still, and that's how he got his powers. But his dad was more of just a crazy scientist who just... Basically, he decided to base his relationship with his dad more off of how his relationship with his dad is in real life. Like, they get along very well, and they tend to mess around quite a bit. Instead of that whole,
classic strategy.
Yeah, instead of being that whole, my dad's the evil scientist out to rule the world sort of thing. Damn it. And I decided that instead of my character dying and then being resurrected, and that's how he got his powers, instead it was, I was always bonded to Chaos from the beginning. I just didn't use it very often because I felt like my character was specific about only using her when he felt he needed her.
It's a good character trait.
Damn it, man.
Damn it, man.
No, I'm trying to, this is combo I'm trying to do. I keep fucking up.
Ah. I like that gear on Grodd.
Why? Because of the skulls on it?
Yeah, skulls are definitely a big point. I think it's mostly the helmet. I think I just really like the helmet.
I don't know why, but looking at the skulls, it just made me think of Mortal Kombat.
No, that stands to reason. I mean, skulls have been a pretty big style point for Mortal Kombat from the beginning. What I want to know is, what skulls are those? Those look too big to be human skulls.
Yeah, but the shape of them definitely can't be gorillas.
Well, it looks like we get to make fun of Grodd for putting fake skeleton or fake skulls on his armor instead of actually getting some real skulls on there.
Well, can you really blame him? I mean, he may be a villain, but even I can't imagine him wanting to go through the trouble of finding some skulls that big to fit on his arms, even as accessories. First kill the person, then take their skulls, clean all the blood and whatever mess is left behind, just to use it as an accessory. So what was I talking about? Oh yeah, when my friend and I decided to reboot the J&J series, he and I both agreed that was definitely a good idea, because the original one, it got to a point where like how you said, we got this sort of writer's block, and it was just no fun. Like, we really couldn't come up with any ideas. It was us just doing the same encounters or confrontations over and over. So when we decided to do that sort of reboot, I can't remember. It was so many years ago. Can't remember the exact specifics. So we decided that this will be our main series now. But then one of us decided, what if we did a sort of like crossover story where it's me and him visiting our counterparts from the original story we did. And so that's what it was. Somehow one of the villains from our universe, from the rebooted one, ended up interacting or came into contact with the villains of the original. But we decided, instead of like constantly calling the new story we were doing the reboot and whatnot, we decided that the rebooted series, or the new one we were working on, that would be the main original universe. in the original story we did, that was like the sort of alternate universe. And so we just kept referring to everything as just our alternates or our alternate counterparts. Because this was right before we decided we came up with more of this whole idea for a multiverse sort of thing. And I remember that's actually one of our favorite stories we did. Us interacting with our alternate counterparts, and even though the alternate, or the first story we did, the alternate Earth was the second universe created, our time goes by faster. That's why our counterparts in that world are much older. Because we came up with this idea. Wait, are you even listening?
I'm listening.
Okay. I keep forgetting that you are, because you just get so silent.
Well, you know, sometimes I just go to listen and I'm thinking about what you're saying.
You go into a what?
Not... What?
I don't know. You said something about going to a synonym and thinking about what I'm saying.
Oh, no, I'm just listening real good and thinking about what you're saying.
Okay.
Anyway, continue.
Oh yeah, we came up with this idea where our counterparts, which is basically, like I said, was just us, our alternate counterparts were part of what was called Second Earth, or, well, we just called it Alternate Earth because we didn't really explore too much of the idea of traveling the multiverse. But anyways, our alternates were resided on what's called Alternate Earth or Second Earth. And how the Earth we were in, that we resided on, was the main one. And we sort of thought of it as sort of like a tree, where with our universe being the base or the trunk of it, and every other universe just being branches off of it. And how, oh, now I remember part of the story was also inspired by Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe. Because do you remember that game?
I do.
Do you remember in the story how it was said that due to both DC and Mortal Kombat merging, it would have caused an eventual collapse of the realms?
I don't quite remember those specifics, but yeah, I do remember that was the issue. The two worlds had split into each other, and bad things were going to happen if it wasn't resolved.
Yeah, so that was kind of what was going on in our series when we did that little crossover event we did. Because it was a villain from, as I said, a villain from our world who somehow came into contact with the villain, his alternate from Second Earth, and regardless if they were aware of it or not, the worlds were merging together, planned to attain some sort of godlike power. And I remember that's how we met all alternates. And I remember my friend, he was commenting on his characters, his alternate, because his alternate was this sort of constantly depressed. What do they call that? It's some kind of symptom for people who are constantly depressed most of the time.
Manic depression.
What?
Manic depression.
Oh, I thought it was chronic depression.
Or chronic. Yeah, chronic means it's all the time. Manic means something else. Yeah, no, chronic depression. You're right.
Yeah. So he was in this sort of chronically depressed state most of the time due to his son in the Second Earth, who he named Billy, came to despise his father and hate his dad, and ended up becoming a villain, working with the bad guys, and his marriage with his wife on the verge of collapse. Like, they were this close to getting a divorce. And so our first Earth, or main Earth counterpart, or us, Jacob, he decided, he was like, man, I am so glad I have yet to become anything like my Second Earth counterpart, because this guy sucks. Because his Second Earth counterpart, due to his depression, the way life was going for him, became more and more involved in his work, started ignoring everyone and everything. But he said that one of the few good things that came about about it was sort of an experiment he came up with. And we never really came up or agreed with how he did it, but his second Earth counterpart managed to build a complete underground city. Like literally the city we lived in Sacramento, he managed to make a recreation of it underground. He said he never could understand what for, since there wasn't no major disasters that would require such a thing. But he just said one day he just found himself working on it and just couldn't stop. Like it was the only thing to get his mind off of how depressed or how much his life sucked.
Oh, that's actually a really dynamic story point.
Yeah. And so I remember, and the first way we did it was how we sort of discovered the universe is changing was we just noticed everything around us just looking different. Like me and him, our main counterparts, we're just sitting inside a restaurant, just chilling, eating. But then we just noticed these random flashes that would happen every now and then. Like first it was just on our Earth. Then suddenly we're like, wait a minute. Do you remember that billboard or that sign out there looking like that? No, I don't remember. And then suddenly it would go back to our world. Then another sudden flash, and I'm like, okay, something's going on here. And then eventually at some point we realized we found our worlds colliding with another one. And it was his second Earth counterpart we met first. And it was like from there the story started unfolding. And they're like, wait a minute, where's the rest of the group? Where's Nick, Mike, and all the others? And I remember one of the fucked up things we did was one of our friends in real life, Nick, we decided that for his second Earth counterpart was kidnapped at some point and was mutated into this sort of freakish creature. And the basis we used for that was Goro from Mortal Kombat. And I remember
like
we started
four-arm things?
Yeah, forearms. And I can't remember how else we decided his mutation would look like. But due to the fact that he was turned into a monster, he couldn't speak or anything. And I remember thinking, man, why would we think something like that for Nick? That's just fucked up. Especially how at one point in our story, the main Earth, Nick, ended up killing his counterpart without even realizing it. He was like, man, that guy sure was ugly. And we were like, Nick, that's your counterpart. And he's all like, wait, what? And he takes one look and he's like, oh, shit. And we thought that was like one of the funniest parts in the story.
Yeah, it's fun to do stuff like that when you're coming up with stories like that and you're using your friends. My buddies did a story in which they put me in it, but I was only in the beginning as a messenger who got killed. And the package I was carrying was very important to the story. But yeah, that was my whole thing in the entire story was I'm just the messenger that the antagonist went over to and killed to take the package. And they're like, oh yeah, we put you in the story. I'm like, really? Well, let me see. And I read it. I'm like, yeah, you did put me in the story. Thanks.
More of a cameo than anything.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's
Their
like,
characters made it through the rest, not me.
Like, oh, you're not important, but the package you're carrying is very important, so that technically kind of makes you important.
Yeah, pretty
Just
much.
just not important enough to live.
Yeah, we had a really good laugh about it.
Yeah, like some people say, no one likes that sort of character whose death is very irrelevant.
Yep, like a henchman in any superhero story.
Now, so when we was doing that crossover event, I remember at some point we came across my alternate, and I just like how we did it. Where my counterpart was he was more of he basically became a terrorist who was wanted on Earth, and so that's how we kind of figured things weren't right with our world. People saw me and were going after me, trying to kill me. And we saw newspaper clips of me talking about how I'm still at large. And I'm like, wait a minute, I don't remember doing any of this shit. Like, if they, like, why is the public accusing me of this stuff? Let me do this stuff first before you say that I'm a terrorist. And I can't remember how exactly we went. I think we kind of just skimmed over that part of us meeting my counterpart, but we just knew that we just figured out or found out he was a villain, and I'm trying to remember one of the what was one of the more important parts of the story we did. We just knew that the whole world was getting to this point where we had to immediately find some way to stop the collapsing of the worlds, and it took defeating this villain and his counterpart who was doing it. So literally, the villain was another friend we had in real life, and we kind of made him this sort of mafia don sort of type boss or type villain. And I'm trying to think. I think we kind of kept making references to The Godfather as we were doing it. And so,
well, if you're involving the mafia, of course you got to reference The Godfather.
I know, right? Well, he's more of a mafia type boss or mafia type villain on our main Earth. On the second Earth, he kind of runs his corporation or his business. We can't remember his last name, but it was like some kind of corporation he ran that was in competition with Jacob's corporation, because Jacob's corporation was called Freitas Tech, and our friend Manny, he had this other corporation that was a bit of a rivalry with it. Whereas in the main Earth, it was more sort of a front for his illegal mafia business. On the second Earth, his business was like sort of this main theme, but it was more like Lex Luthor, where it's not really him being involved with the mafia, but more of using the company as a way of fueling his own ambitions. And so they had a bit of a corporate rivalry going on, but the public just favored Freitas Tech more. And
it's amazing how important the public opinion is when it comes to a company.
It really is. And that's not even just in fiction either. That's kind of I want to say that's kind of the scary thing, but that's also reality.
Oh, it's totally reality. But I mean, the best parts of fiction take the deepest parts of reality as their inspiration.
No, right? So the second Earth counterpart, he was, let's see, unlike our original First Earth version, the second Earth counterpart was more obsessed with gaining power beyond typical corporate management or corporation. I can't think of the fancy term for it. And he was wondering how can a man like him attain godlike power? But also he figured he can't do it by himself, but he couldn't trust anyone. He's like, who can I trust? Because my character, his second Earth counterpart, was, in addition to becoming a wanted terrorist, he also tended to operate as a bit of a muscle for hire. But he figured that my second Earth counterpart couldn't be trusted, so he thought, who else could I trust more than myself? And then that's what he thought, of course, myself. And that's how he came up with the idea of contacting an alternate version of himself from another universe, which was the First Earth. And that's how they started this whole hit our worlds colliding together sort of thing, not realizing that doing so will slowly cause the collapse of the universes. Because in our story, the way it works is, you know how I said about the whole Earth and trees comparison thing, right?
Right.
Well, it goes like this. Basically, you destroy any of the counterparts, like second Earth, Earth 2, Earth 3, going further. You destroy any of those Earths, nothing bad will happen. It's all fine. Well, for the first Earth. But if the first Earth is destroyed, or the first universe is destroyed, then all the others will start to collapse as well. A sort of domino effect.
Ah.
And when we found this out, that's part of that's also part of the reason, or else it's from the very beginning our characters realized we had to stop this whole emerging and separate the Earth somehow, but realizing that part just made it even more frantic for us. Wait, what time is it? Oh, 3:13. So that just gave us even more motivation to set things right. And so we decided, me and Jacob decided to team up with our Earth 2 Jacob. And obviously teaming up with my counterpart was not going to work since he's a pure villain now.
Rotten, dirty bastard.
What you just called me?
No, I called your
I know.
counterpart.
I was just making a joke on that. Dumbass.
Smart ass.
I know, right? I am smart. That's why the ladies love me.
Yeah, I got no comeback to that, really.
Exactly. I am the master. Fear me. So we decided, he was like, wait a minute, why don't you get our old gang of friends together to help? Because we still had the Odd Squad on the first Earth. He's like, the Odd Squad is dead. Me and my wife, we don't speak that much anymore. The rest of my friends, they gone their separate ways. My son, he hates me now. In fact, there's been a few times where I had to fight my own son. And so that's when First Earth Jacob, he was like, okay, you know what, I had enough of this shit. And gave Second Earth Jacob a stern talking to. Kind of to motivate him, but also I can't remember how he did it. I think one of the ideas he came up with, well, he was like, wait a minute, what if in our story I convince him by grabbing him by his collar or grabbing him by his neck and shaking him while yelling at him to stop doing all this stuff and start being a man again. And I'm like, and I was thinking to myself, I think that might be going a little overboard. So we just agreed it was more of just him yelling at his counterpart to basically stop being a fucking idiot.
Sometimes that's what a person needs, a good psychological jolt to get them out of the
get him out of a jam. So I remember at some point he decided he was gonna try to get his friends together, and me and Jacob decided we was gonna help him somehow. More like help him with finding the ones who he thought were lost, try to find them and help him convince them. But obviously, as far as his son and his wife, we was like, yeah, we'll leave that to you, because he and his wife were still, his Second Earth counterpart was still married. It's just like I said, his wife, they didn't speak that much or spend that much time together. So as far as his wife, she was the easiest to convince to give him a second chance. But then it was a matter of finding his son, and we did. But I think it's in our story we did a sort of thing where the Billy of his world, who's technically still a teenager, unlike on the counterpart Earth, where his son has grown into a young adult, they had to sort of fight. But one of the funny things we did is how on the first main Earth, Billy, he's very arrogant or confident, thinking that just because he's been trained in martial arts and trained in how to use his powers that he inherited from his mom and dad, he doesn't tend to think things ahead that much.
Sounds like he hangs out with Damian Wayne.
Oh man, and this was long before. Well, I remember we did this. This was after Injustice 1 came out, but before we even knew about Damian Wayne. Like he's not rude by any means. Like he's usually very nice and actually someone you can actually get along and want to hang out with. It's like usually it's just in his fighting ability that he's at his most arrogant.
Ah, I gotcha.
So I remember in the story, his son Billy meets his alternate counterpart at some point. They have a fight, and needless to say, unlike the main Billy or First Earth Billy, the second Earth counterpart, due to be much more mature and much older, actually has a lot of skill. And it was basically a no contest, but we were able to stop him before he killed anyone. And so Second Earth Jacob was able to talk to his son, and eventually they were able to come to the agreement. His son saying, "All right, I'll help you guys, but I sure as hell ain't gonna like it." And we're like, "You ain't gotta like it. Just help us save the world so you don't die along with it."
That there's compromise.
Yeah, and it was like we came into this sort of agreement again to help us. It was just after that, it was a matter of him and his dad, or their counterpart, our second Earth counterparts, bonding over time, or reconciling, I mean to say. And then, as far as the other two members who were still alive and weren't turned into horrible monsters, unlike Nick, still don't know why we did that. Where instead of our Nick teaming up with his counterpart gets turned into some horrible disfigured monster looking like Goro, a mutated Goro. I don't know why we did that.
Well, it sounds like it was just really, really funny at the time.
I know, and it still is funny. We're just thinking, like, because in real life, Nick is a very good friend of ours, one of our closest friends when we was in Job Corps. But the fact that it wasn't his main counterpart, just his second counterpart. So we figured at least we only just did it for his alternate counterpart at least. But we're like, man, that's still kind of fucked up. The ideas we came up with it, because we envisioned Earth 2 being basically the sort of Earth where everything's all fucked up now for one reason or another. So Nick, or Earth 2 Nick, we couldn't team up with him because of, I'm not gonna explain all that again.
Yeah.
And eventually they managed to find the other two members, Mike and Jordan. We found their counterparts, and it was sort of like the Odd Squad having this sort of reunion again. This sort of, it wasn't exactly the happiest one. I'm trying to remember what they called that. A not so happy reunion, because the reason why a lot of them ended up quitting or leaving the team was because of how much of an asshole Earth 2 Jacob had become over time.
Ah, a bittersweet reunion.
Yeah. And so, like I said, so the issue was just a matter of finding them and convincing them to help us. And it was like after that, they started to bond over time. So it was the Odd Squad minus my counterpart and Nick's counterpart teaming up with the Odd Squad of the First Earth. And I remember one of my favorite things was the confrontations between me and my counterpart when I saw just how I didn't know just how evil he'd become. I just knew he was a villain at that point. But it wasn't until
that boy ain't right moment.
Yep. It wasn't until later stories we did that we started to slowly see, or at least I started to see, just how evil my counterpart became. But when we was doing that story, instead of like just going hero to villain, like, oh, I'm one of the bad guys now. No, he became full-blown psychotic. I like the interactions in this game between Green Arrow and Swamp Thing. It's almost like sort of cartoonish in nature. Swamp Thing, the sort of mature person who just does what he's required to, and Green Arrow, this sort of person who just annoys them all the time. Kind of like that annoying neighbor nobody wants but is forced to deal with.
I think Green Arrow makes a point of being everybody's annoying neighbor that nobody wants to deal with.
I thought that was
He's
Mr.
got something
Mixoplex.
smart-ass. Yeah, but I mean, Green Arrow's got something smart-ass to say to everyone, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. But it seems like out of all the characters in this game, it's Swamp Thing he annoys the most. And it's like,
Yeah,
obviously, with his wife, with Black Canary, he tries not to annoy her the best he can. Even though he knows how, even though she's
kick the shit
easily
out of him
annoyed.
if she does that.
Yeah, because while Green Arrow is definitely good with a bow and arrow, as far as hand-to-hand combat skills, yeah, he's definitely got nothing on Black Canary.
Well, Black Canary is almost all hand-to-hand combat, isn't she?
Yeah, not to mention her her little vice shout or canary cry.
Huh.
Well, it's called a canary cry, but I like calling it vice shout. But it's been said that her canary cry is actually even powerful enough to harm Kryptonians.
Depending on the universe you're watching, she can make Superman's ears bleed.
Yes. So if she could do that to a Kryptonian, obviously, if you're just a human like Green Arrow, you don't want to deal with that.
No, your eardrums will pretty much explode out your ears.
You know, this kind of sounds fucked up, but you notice how that's kind of like how some men depict women when they get mad or start talking in general in real life.
Mm-hmm.
How some men feel that way. So I feel I almost felt like
definitely a stereotype.
So I felt like someone just took that idea with Green Arrow and Black Canary and took it up to 11.
Oh, pretty much, yeah. That's 100%. That's what they did.
Yeah, I'm like, man, that's kind of fucked up. So, anyways, back to our story. What were you about to say?
I was gonna say it'd be funny if they did that where Wonder Woman got married to somebody, whether it's that pilot that she meets on the island or whoever. Just, I imagine the wife-husband encounters with Wonder Woman and her spouse would be quite funny.
I'm trying to remember his name. Oh yeah, Steve Trevor.
Thank you, that guy.
In fact,
Especially
he's the only
Steve
one I
Trevor,
Go ahead.
Steve Trevor is your stereotypical 1950s man. So he expects the whole "I'm the man, I go to work, you're the woman, you're in the house." He's not an asshole about it. Those are just the values he has.
Yeah.
And then of course Wonder Woman is, well, probably the most powerful woman there is. So yeah.
Yeah, so basically being an Amazonia is kind of the opposite, where it's like all power for the women, very little or no power at all for the men. So definitely the exact definition of opposites attract or worlds collide.
Yep.
So back to our story. So basically the alternate, or the Earth 2 Odd Squad having this sort of bittersweet reunion, minus, like I said, minus my character, who technically never was part of the Odd Squad. On Earth 2, the Odd Squad had formed had formed after he had died. Whereas in the first Earth, or on the main Earth, I can keep going back and forth between second Earth or counterpart or first Earth or main Earth. It's almost like with DC. Every time DC reboots their comics, they keep coming up with a new name for whatever Earth everyone resides on. It's either Earth 1 or Earth 2 or New Earth or
Earth Prime.
Oh yeah, Earth Prime or Prime Earth. And I'm like, wait a minute,
yeah.
Isn't that the same thing? No. Prime Earth is different from Earth Prime because of whatever. I'm like, damn it, just come to a fucking decision already.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of too many chefs in the kitchen.
So anyways, our main counterparts, they formed the Odd Squad with my character joining the team, but eventually, due to so many disagreements or arguments between me and the team, I ended up leaving, and that's how on the main Earth I'm associated with the Odd Squad, but I'm not a part of the team, not anymore. Whereas in the second Earth, my character was never part of the team. It was formed after he had died. So almost kind of like with what happened with the Justice League in the DC extended universe. Batman forming the Justice League after Superman's death. You know, it's almost kind of fucked up when you think about it, how it takes a whole team of lesser powerful individuals teaming up together after the most powerful being on the planet dies, and it's like suddenly that most powerful being comes back, and then you realize, man, we're not anywhere near as powerful as him.
Speaking of the death of Superman, my absolute favorite thing about that is, it's like, oh no, he's dead, we have to bury him. Whereas in the reality it was, no, he's just in a coma. If you put him on a lawn chair and let him sit out in the sun, he'd heal right up.
Yeah, because I thought that was kind of funny. Screw Tech made a joke on that when they said how, I think it was like between the fight it was Doomsday versus Hulk. It was either that or it was in one of the Goku versus Superman videos. Yeah, when he said he fought Doomsday, and it was on that day that Doomsday killed him. Or it was on that day, Doomsday did the one thing no one else thought possible. He killed Superman. Well, you know, technically he put him into a healing coma, and he had to get his vital energy back for a few days. And one YouTuber was just talking about the different types of villains that Superman has, talking about how Doomsday is one of the most dangerous. Because Doomsday was the first and only villain so far to kill Superman. And he's like, and then we have Doomsday, the first villain to do the one thing no one else could. He killed Superman. Dramatic pause. Well, temporarily, of course. Like, oh no, he killed him temporarily. No, he didn't kill him. Superman never died. He went into a healing coma. Yeah. And some were like, then why call it the death of Superman? Oh, that was just the Shark fans. But still, he didn't die. He went into a healing coma. He just needed to have the sun for a few days.
Mm-hmm. Bane and Doomsday kind of are in an exclusive club. They both beat the living shit out of their hero counterparts.
Yeah, well, you guess you could say on Bane's part, he outsmarted Batman because. And I remember in the comic how Bane manipulated the events that caused Superman to go around capturing all the villains he had worked so hard to capture in the first place, because Bane somehow managed to free them, and that just made him easier to fight, and that's when Bane took advantage and broke his back. Mm-hmm. Saying Bane did the one thing. Bane was the first to do the one thing no one else could. He broke the bat. Literally putting him into a 1-year retirement. And then after that,
according to the storyline shows, he barely made it back from.
Yeah, but it's like then after that, they both Doomsday and Bane get regulated, or they get pushed to the back of the line, as in like, all right, you did the one thing we needed you for. You're no longer relevant. You'll never have another moment in comics like this.
Oh my god, you're right. They did that to both characters because Bane is mostly a joke now.
Exactly. And it's like rarely do you ever see Doomsday in comics anymore, or in any major storylines.
Yeah, they never really did anything truly good with Doomsday. Well, other than the death of Superman.
Yeah.
They need to redo the death of Superman scene though, because in the original storyline, they were talking about how Superman was not holding back at all. He was using his full force strength, and so was Doomsday. So when they were hitting each other, it was causing such concussive force that windows were breaking. It's like, okay, that's cool, and there's your concept, but you gotta update that now. I want to see a fight between Superman and Doomsday where they're taking out an entire city block just hitting each other.
I thought they kind of did that in the original comic.
No, they did damage in the comic, but not as much as they should have, or at least not as much damage as they should be doing by today's fiction standards. It was perfect for the time, But yeah, I'd love to see an updated one where, yeah, they just demolish an entire city just from the force of their punches hitting each other.
Yeah, but it's like the only other, the only the other the only other notable victory I remember Doomsday having, or supposedly having, was fighting Darkseid and defeating him.
I did not know about that.
Yeah, they apparently that happened at some point early into Doomsday's career, where Doomsday basically just started becoming a threat for the DC universe in general instead of just Superman. But if I remember, I think they literally just skimmed over that. Like, they don't actually show the battle or the full battle. I think I just remember seeing a couple of panels just showing Darkseid being carried off by Darkseid being carried off by Doomsday, and Cyborg Superman just following, saying he's impressed that someone was able to just beat Darkseid into a coma and just drag him around like that.
If anybody,
and I'm like, wait a minute,
right?
you mean to tell me that the only one of the other guys whose strength matches or sometimes overpowers Superman just got beaten senseless by Doomsday, no contest, and you're just gonna skim over that like it's nothing?
Yeah, it sounds like there's a couple of important details they should have at least listed.
Yeah, all the more reason, like I said, where after Bane and Doomsday did the things they were originally created for in their first comics, after that, nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, you see any you see any Batman story where they're using multiple villains, they'll use Bane, but he's always just like a secondary background henchman. Bane is just the strongest of the henchmen.
Yeah, the strongest, but not the most dangerous.
No. Nah, they could have done so much more with Bane. Although, I do remember a comic book storyline a while back, and I don't know where this was in the story place, but something was going on where Batman was going to need to talk to Bane and get Bane's cooperation. So I guess he'd like sent out a, hey Bane, I need to talk to you. And he comes back to the Batcave, and he's looking around, he's like, something's not right. And there's Bane just sitting in the back corner of the Batcave drinking some tea, waiting. And so they're like, oh, haha, very funny, you got in here. And they're talking about the situation, and then finally, Batman's like, so you're gonna help, right? And Bane goes, yeah, but you're gonna give me that Rolls Royce that's in your garage. And then, like, starts making Bruce Wayne give him a bunch of fancy stuff to get him to help.
Wow, that's fucked up on so many levels.
Yeah, basically just takes a couple of Batman's really expensive cars because he really liked them. And Batman's like, yeah, fine, whatever.
Yeah, because he's Batman, he'll just buy more.
Exactly.
Well, no, that
the most
itself has
important
kind of
thing to him
became a
there was
meme.
Bane's cooperation.
Yeah, it's like that itself kind of became a meme, how Batman could just do this or that simply because he's the Batman.
Yeah, that is a thing.
I remember
the
how...
answer, he's Batman.
Yeah, because basically Bane and Superman were created for the purpose of showing just how invulnerable or invincible Batman and Superman aren't exactly.
Yeah.
How, if given a situation, a given opponent who could outmatch them, they can and will be killed if not careful. Mm-hmm. If no Deus Ex Machina is made prevalent.
You know, the whole Superman Doomsday fight probably would have even gone considerably different if Superman hadn't been so pressed and concerned about getting the fight finished so that innocent people weren't going to die. Like if you had been able to start the fight in just a big empty open desert, Doomsday probably wouldn't have gotten any upper hand.
Yeah, but that's just more of... I don't know if I want to say psychological warfare, because Doomsday 90% of the time is always just this sort of mindless monster just attacking whoever or whatever is nearby. So I don't know if that was him manipulating Superman psychologically or more...
Well, no, it was just the fact that it was happening in the middle of a city. If Superman stopped paying attention for Doomsday for even a second, then Doomsday turns around, tears a building in half, and like kills 1,000 people picking up a rock to throw at Superman. So yeah, Superman could not let up on Doomsday for even the slightest second in that fight because there would have been too much collateral damage. So when they're in the middle of an open wasteland where Superman doesn't need to worry about damage or life getting lost, he probably would have kept his distance from Doomsday for a bit and figured out a better strategy.
Yeah, but it's like when you see it that way, then technically that just kind of makes the final battle between them boring. Then.
Yeah, true. I mean, really, ultimately, it's what the writers wanted to happen, right?
Yeah. So it's like it's kind of cool when they make this character who's able to finally present a challenge to someone who most people think, oh, this character is too smart, too powerful to be defeated. Then you have this character who, in fact, can outmatch them from be it in strength or in skill or intelligence.
Yeah.
But then they basically just write themselves into another corner. They're like, but wait a minute, what about all the other villains there? Because technically this one just made all the other villains irrelevant since they're not as powerful in that regard.
Yeah.
Well, then again, it wasn't really that much of an issue for Doomsday when Superman came back, because most of his villains were enemies who were able to challenge Superman by outsmarting him in whatever way, like Mongol and Lex Luthor. Like those kind of characters who rely more on their intellect than actual fighting him up close and personal.
Well, yeah, Lex Luthor's just constantly putting Superman in incredibly challenging and difficult situations.
Yeah, I remember the whole thing about Doomsday was not only they needed a villain who can kill Superman, but someone who was actually a match for him in strength.
Yep.
And I'm like, isn't that what Darkseid is? Darkseid's like what the one villain I can think of who has both brains and bronze compared against Superman. Well, again, there's also Mongol. Because
Mongol thing with Doomsday was he had infinite strength.
Yeah, that and his ability to adapt to anyone and anything he comes across.
Exactly. So the longer the fight would have gone on, the more difficult it would have been for Superman.
Yeah, whereas with Darkseid, he has the strength to match Superman, but I feel like part of the reason why he keeps losing in the end in his fights is just due to his overconfidence.
Yeah, pretty much.
Whereas with Doomsday, as far as stuff like that be any weakness that could be considered psychological, he literally doesn't have any of that, because literally all he thinks is attack, kill, destroy.
Exactly.
Whereas with Darkseid, you can beat him until he decides, okay, you know, I had enough of this. I'll just come back for you guys another day. Whereas with Darkseid, no matter how many times he gets beaten, it's either you kill him, which is next to impossible, or you just let him kill you, which obviously for Superman was not much of an option.
Isn't Darkseid one of those characters, though, where, like, absolutely everything that happens is just part of a greater plan that he has going?
Yeah, and for some people it's just a matter of figuring out what that plan is so you can counter it or stop it if possible. But I remember there's also characters like
even in defeat, like Darkseid will go, okay, this and this and this will happen, so right here they need to defeat.
I'm trying to remember what kind of story arcs there were that had that. Because I just remember, the only one I can think of is Final Crisis. Where basically, literally everything that happened was all part of some major complex plan that Darkseid had.
Right.
But, God, what was that?
I guess, what's that dude who's like super smart and he was a caveman that touched the meteorite and he's immortal?
Vandal Savage.
Yeah, he was kind of doing that in Young Justice, where like absolutely every single event was carefully calculated by him for a greater goal.
Yeah, and every villain he worked with was more like that villain was more just another pawn for him to use, as opposed to being another business partner. But I remember there's another villain.
I'm looking really forward to this new season.
Another villain that Superman always had a lot of difficulty against in battle was Mongol. Like Mongol had the strength to challenge Superman, but at the same time, it wasn't just his strength. It was also the fact that he was a superior skilled combatant, as in, unlike Superman, who relies mostly on his powers and on his strength alone, Mongol also, like I said, he had the strength and durability to fight Superman, but also had the superior training and skills. So that's why I said it was only like maybe literally once or twice in comics in which Superman was able to defeat Mongol in combat. But literally every other time they had a confrontation, Superman only was able to stop Mongol's plans. As in, like, whatever schemes he had that involved like subjugating the Earth or anything of that sort, he was able to stop his plans, but he couldn't actually defeat them in combat.
I just looked Mongol up because I couldn't remember who he was, and yeah, I remember this dude now.
Yeah, and I always thought Mongol was such a cool villain. It makes me wonder why. I'm like, man, why don't we ever get to see more of him then?
Oh well, man. I think the industry, video game, comics, movies, you name it. I think there's going to be big changes this year.
What makes you say that?
Some changes for the better. Because of all the financial and legal troubles all the companies got into over 2018.
And you say you're thinking they're going to change for the better?
I think so. I mean, Disney lost out so much money with Star Wars. EA is being investigated by the Gambling Commission. Blizzard just split up with Activision, and Activision is now under investigation for fraud. Who else has gotten screwed over this year?
Or you
I
mean
don't know,
last
it's a
year?
huge freaking list. Yeah, and it's basically it's all problems with these companies' leaderships. So that's what makes me think with all of this loss that has happened in the industry, we're going to get some new people in charge, and they'll make some, maybe not perfect choices, but at least some choices in the right direction.
Yeah. I remember how last year, and actually I think ever since Street Fighter V came out, people were always getting on Capcom's case about every little thing they did. And I remember everyone treated Capcom like they were the worst company ever, or like they were villains for whatever reason, saying that everything about Street Fighter V was just nothing but a cash grab. Some people were calling it Capcom, calling anyone who supported Capcom Capcucks, or what was the other word for it? Oh yeah, shills, Capcom shills, and calling Capcom Cash Grab Com or Cash Com, saying they just want everyone's money. They don't care. They're just doing all this just to get more money in their pockets. And then it was made even worse with Marvel Infinite. Of course, there were some people like me who said, of course they're doing all this stuff to get people's money. That's why they sell these things. So you buy it, and that's more money in their pockets or in their banks. Because they're a business. They're not your best friends.
And it's funny because it turns out Capcom was the least guilty of all those things of any game company out there right now. In fact, I think
so
Capcom
far the only
is
games
the only
they
company
made,
where nothing bad.
Yeah, so far the only games they made that really had a lot of any major issues was Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite and Street Fighter V. And Street Fighter V was like, sure, it was bad at launch, but over time it got better.
Yeah.
Whereas Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, they just gave up.
Launch. Well, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite was a giant political issue. Like, I mean, you can't even blame
Capcom.
the video game. That game was like, doomed at conception.
Exactly. And I feel like most of that was because of Marvel and Disney manipulating Capcom.
100% Marvel and Disney in that case. Capcom, left to their own devices, would have made that game amazing.
Exactly. And they probably would have supported the game for much longer than just a year or however a few months. Would have had a lot more characters and had a much better variety if it wasn't for Disney and Marvel saying, no, you can't do this. You can only have these characters and those characters. We don't want no X-Men or Fantastic Four because fuck those guys. Fuck Sony and no. They made it. No, Marvel made a deal with Sony, so Sony was all right. But no, because fuck Fox, because they got the X-Men and Fantastic Four, and even though it's film rights, we still don't want to see any of the characters they own the film rights to in this game.
Yeah, because they're trying to make even the film rights absolutely worthless.
I know, and I bet you Capcom was like, but people like the X-Men, and Super Skull was such a major, was one of the characters people played a lot in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. We don't, and Marvel and Disney be all like, we don't care. That may be just the video games, but they still own the film rights. We want everyone to hate the X-Men and Fantastic Four. We don't want them promoted. So no X-Men or Fantastic Four.
That's it, 100%.
And I remember looking up on Wikipedia how it said that a lot of the people who reviewed the game felt that the Marvel side of the roster was made by corporate managers and lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's saying how
the whole game was made by managers and lawyers.
And everyone was saying that part of the reason why there's no X-Men or Fantastic Four was Marvel's absolute refusal to promote the X-Men. Mm-hmm. And that was just 100%. Made worse when Peter Rosas, who was trying to do his best to get people to not hate the game so much, I can't remember what they call his position, but those kind of people who explain what's going on in the game and explain certain details like new game mechanics or why this is happening in the game, why that and this. When he said how, oh, there's nothing to worry about because all that stuff as far as between the X-Men and Disney and Fox, that's just as far as the films. And some people were relieved like, oh, good, so we should still get the X-Men and maybe some Fantastic Four like Dr. Doom. Only for the game to come out and they're like, wait a minute, why would they make that statement if there's no X-Men to be found? At least that's what I asked. I was like, we should have known it was too good to be true.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's why a lot of people said that instead of Marvel vs. Capcom, instead what they should have done was make a crossover game with another company, like SNK. Especially how SNK is finally start coming back onto the scene after they made games like King of Fighters 14. They recently announced King of Fighters 15, and they even revealed not King of Fighters 15, but Samurai Showdown. And I'm certain this is a sign of more good games to come, or good things in general to come from SNK. And people for years have been asking for a Capcom vs. SNK 3. So I'm like, yeah, they could have done that, making it Capcom vs. SNK 3. Because people love Capcom vs. SNK 2. Even to this day, there's still many people who play that game. Who not only play that game, but try to set up little side tournaments for it. So it's like they definitely should have worked with SNK. That would have been a much better option.
Well, hopefully the industry sees that now, and we're actually going to start seeing some of that stuff.
Exactly. So like I said, people last year, or ever since Street Fighter V came out, hated on Capcom and just coming up with all kinds of insults. At that point, people were more just doing that as either as a meme or just because, oh hey, everyone's doing this. This is the popular opinion, and I don't want to be looked at in any negative way, so I want to have the same opinion as all of these guys.
Yeah, everybody just getting on the bandwagon.
Yeah, fucking idiots. So that's all that really was, as opposed to companies like EA and all those others, like you said, who were truly making all these bad decisions, who were purposely screwing over their fans or consumers in general. Mm-hmm. But of course, everyone wants to turn a blind eye to those because they're like, oh, brand loyalty, or our favorite games are made by these companies.
Nah, we're at the point now where they don't even have brand loyalty. Everybody is pissed off at them.
I know, especially who was it? I think it was Bethesda who made. I'm trying to remember. It was a Fallout game. Fallout 76.
Yeah, that's Bethesda. Yeah, they're in trouble. Like the company might shut down kind of trouble.
Because I remember so many people were looking forward to Fallout 76, but it's like ever since after the game came out, I never watched any videos covering it, but every new video I saw talking about it was just everyone just talking about how much they hate Fallout 76, about how much they hate it, what was wrong with the game. Some people were being all like, man, we were supposed to get this and that. Now we only got this and that. What the hell, Bethesda?
Oh yeah, like, the game should have been in development for like another 5 years. It's completely broken, and the fixes are super slow. And instead of just fixing the game, they're also still implementing their cash grab stuff with microtransactions.
like loot boxes and whatnot.
Yes, and that was like one of the recent last straws that got them into a bunch of trouble. I think we're going to see the end of loot boxes pretty soon.
Yeah, because I remember it was a 107 facts video talking about Spider-Man, and some people were worried about stuff like loot boxes and microtransactions. And the company who made the game, Insomniac, they said, "Oh no, there's going to be absolutely no microtransactions or loot boxes whatsoever in our game." Like they made that a promise.
Yeah, they did DLC, but that was it.
Yeah, and DLC, that's always going to
Honestly,
be a
good for them.
thing.
Well, DLC, you're paying for an entire package of programming, not just one tiny little thing.
Exactly. And it's like, I'm fine with DLC and all, just as long as the DLC in general is actually something good.
Yeah, just go back to when DLC was called expansion packs and actually make an expansion for the game.
Yeah, which is exactly what they did for Spider-Man. When they made that, like, that story expansion pack, the heist, or no, a city that never sleeps. And they said there's going to be more story expansions, and probably more costumes for Spider-Man later on.
Well, I can't believe they introduced Miles Morales Spider-Man in there. So, I mean, there's even room for Miles DLC.
Yeah, I like how they did that. They basically kind of snuck in another expansion story along with the city that never sleeps. Like, sure, Miles Morales doesn't get. Well, I don't want to do any spoilers. But like I said, basically the story involving Miles himself, like just seeing him in the game when they revealed the game, I can't remember. I think it was like at E3 or some kind of gaming event. And at the end of one of the trailers, you just see Miles Morales with some other guy as Spider-Man swinging off. And immediately, as soon as that guy called that one black kid Miles, people are like, "Wait a minute, Miles? As in Miles Morales? You mean we're gonna get the Miles Morales Spider-Man?" Like people already figured or knew we was gonna get Miles Morales. It was just a matter of will we get him or see him as Spider-Man or not.
Yeah. Well, dude, it is that time, and I have got to get going.
What, you gotta go to work?
No, I just gotta get going. Gotta go do some other stuff. Wife's gonna be home soon.
Oh, okay.
Alrighty, man. Good talking to you.
Good talking to you.
See you later.
See you, dude. And he's gone. I don't know what exactly is going on with the chat that I can't see the comments or that they're not showing up. Yeah, I gotta look into this at some point later on. How many opponents have I defeated so far? I don't even know the exact number. Oh, opponent 27. Damn. Actually, I want to see how long I can keep doing this until I lose. Man, I really got to get PlayStation Plus so I can go back to playing online again. But that's not going to be until So like a long while. Now, if I remember, with MK11, they said that the game's getting a worldwide release in March. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, in March? But you just, I think it was in December they revealed the game. Wait, was it December? Yeah, it was in December that they revealed the MK11. And it said at the end of that trailer that it's not coming out until March. So, December, January, March. Wait, did it say March? It was either March or May. No, I think it was March. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, that's 3 months from now. So I'm assuming they've been working on the game for quite a while if they're going to release the game that shortly. And so far, we have yet to get any new information or any new screenshots showing any new characters or returning characters. Which makes me think they're going to try to do, as far as how they're going to handle MK11, NRS is going to do something different with the game compared to how they handle MK9 and X, or even Injustice. But here's to hoping for the best for MK11. All I know is I still want an Injustice, well, not just Injustice 3, but Mortal Kombat vs. DC 2. Like, I just really feel like with them going back and forth between Injustice and MK or Mortal Kombat, I feel like this is just leading to another Mortal Kombat vs. DC at some point down the line. And I've been streaming for 2 hours, 2 minutes, 45 seconds counting. The AI in this game always keeps picking the weirdest time to air escape. Damn! I gotta try playing endless mode more often for Mortal Kombat X. Let's see if I can view any comments from here. No, not even from my PS4 can I see any comments. So weird. Who is it?
A stranger.
Bullets will not be enough.
I'll switch to explosive rounds.
That could be inconvenient.
Okay, that's done and over with. Oh man, I gotta use the bathroom. Okay, now it's starting to kind of feel like playing against other people online. Because usually it is about this difficult. Now, I have to say that between this and playing against people online, no, it's usually way harder online. Like, there's some people who know some tech in this game that even I have yet to discover. Or who play this game almost literally 24/7. Like, what they call it? Those tournament players or tournament style players. Or those people with the super high ranks. Even I can't commit to myself to a game like Injustice that much to get that good. Usually I play quite a bit online whenever I have PlayStation Plus, but I never was the type to commit to however much practice or training people get in order to get to the higher ranks, or those kind of people who play in tournaments like Sonic Fox. Because like I said, that takes commitment, and I don't have that kind of commitment for video games. I've always been more of a casual type player. Actually, I've done that follow-up. Seriously, you'd be amazed by the number of people who I meet in person, or who I even know personally, who play video games like their whole life, their whole legacy, if they even have one, depends on it. Which kind of reminds me of how I used to be when I was a little kid. I used to play video games that much. Playing it almost day and night whenever I had the chance to. Just playing it like my life depended on it, or like it was the only thing I had worthwhile. Part of the reason why my family, not just my mom, but almost my whole family, tried to intervene, trying to get me to do other things besides playing video games, or limit how much time I spend doing it, whether if I wanted to or not. Oh my goodness, stop blocking. It is so damn annoying how he can literally just keep backdashing like that just to get out of the grab. As someone else once said in a video on YouTube, NRS does not know how to make good grapplers. Seems like NetherRealm Studios' specialty is zoners. It always feels like that. Like, best characters are always the ones who have the best keep away game or zoning game. And that especially seems to be the case in Injustice 2. There's more zoners in this game than I know in even Street Fighter 5. Or Street Fighter in general. So far, the only fighting game I've played that I can actually think of that doesn't have a lot of zoners, if you can even call them that, is in Dragon Ball FighterZ. In fact, Dragon Ball FighterZ is the only game I know of in which the grapplers are actually high tier. Like Android 16 being a grappler is one of the most played characters you see either online or at tournaments. And Broly, I don't see Broly being played that often in tournaments necessarily, but definitely in online matches, people play the hell out of Broly. It makes me wonder how it is exactly why it feels like what's the name of that damn company who makes those games? Yeah, that really is true. Now, what was the name of that company who makes those games? I can't remember. It's the same company that makes the Guilty Gear and they made Guilty Gear and Blaze Blue games, in addition to Dragon Ball FighterZ. And those are the only games I can think of that they made. But it's like that company seems to be the only one who knows how to make good grapplers at all. If you can even say that. Where it used to feel that way about Capcom, but it's like now even Capcom seems to hate their own grapplers. I gotta get a lock from my door. Man, what a kiss ass. It's like for some reason NRS decided to just make Damian Wayne the most hateable or most hated character in this game. Along with Wonder Woman. Well, ain't that a bitch? Wait, I wasn't even paying attention to how many opponents that was. Let's see, who is number one at the top? Let's see, some guy named Check. Seriously, could you come up with a more fancy name? $154,497,479 points. Time 90,581 seconds. Character Batman. Well, of course it's with Batman. There you see, number one was Batman, 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 Batman. Damn, everybody loves Batman in this game. Wait, so what was my score? Highest score is a little over 3 million. Yeah, I'm nowhere near the top. But that's not what I wanted. Oh, wrong button. Man, there's just way too many people who be playing Batman in this game. At least in this mode. Let's see, one Catwoman, Superman. A few Black Adam and Starfire players. Of course, zoners. Man, there was I think I only saw one or two Banes and no Swamp Thing. Or even Cheetah. But there was no war to be fought when he killed Green Arrow. Fucking hypocrite. Kind of sucks how this is the only way to get the blue heat vision is with gear. And it doesn't even add anything special, it just turns it blue. That's not really doing enough damage. Same thing with Supergirl's gear, how she gets... Well, Superman needs a whole gear set, which is stupid. But Supergirl, she only needs like one type of gear in particular to get that purple or violet heat vision. All the more reason why I wish that was just part of the what do they call it? Those color palettes you unlock for each character. Well, anyways, how it's more of an aesthetic that you can just change the color of on your own. Same thing for Black Adam's Lightning. I wish Black Adam's Lightning you can change it whatever color you want. Give it a yellow lightning, like how his lightning originally was before New 52. He used to have yellow lightning. Kind of sucks how now Black Adam's Lightning in comic books is now officially blue or white like Shazam's, as opposed to. Actually, I don't know. I haven't seen Black Adam in DC Rebirth yet. Like they said, he appeared in DC Rebirth towards the beginning, but I have yet to see him or any panels that show him using his lightning. Makes me wonder if in DC Rebirth if they gone back to the yellow lightning or if it's still blue like New 52. So I thought that was a cool thing about Black Adam, how due to the nature of his powers he has different colored lightning from Shazam. But then New 52 they just made it regular lightning, which kind of took the fun out of it. Now remember they didn't just do that for the comics. They did that even in this game. Because in Injustice 1 he had yellow lightning. But now in this game it's just blue or generic. Damn, I really need more people in my guild. I remember quite a while ago I did a video, well I got rid of it, promoting the old guild I used to run. I used to promote it on my channel, telling people to go join it. But I think it's like now, I don't know if people are still getting on Injustice 2 and joining guilds. I think that was more just something that people just did for fun at the beginning. Makes me wonder how long the support for for MK11 is gonna last. Because they'll probably support it for maybe about a year or year and a half, or until the next game comes out, and they'll support it for a little while after they'll probably support Mortal Kombat 11 for a short while, even after their next game after that comes out. But then when they're halfway through with that game support or whatever, they'll probably just stop releasing stuff for MK11. It's kind of a pattern they have. They'll release a new game, and with that game they'll support it for a while, like for maybe a year or however long. And then they'll release some new content like character packs or whatever. Even after shortly after this new game, the next game they make comes out, they'll still keep supporting the last game they made for a short while before focusing entirely on that new game they just released. So no doubt it's going to happen again as well for us. Damn, give me some better gear. It's probably going to happen for MKX as well. I mean MK11. Also, from what I've heard, they're also going to have gear as well in MK11. If so, I hope they do. I hope they gave some characters some actual decent gear in that game. Oh, that looks pretty damn cool. I don't think there's a single character in this game, or at least any of my main characters in this game, who I have the full gear set or have completed all gear sets. Seriously, not for Superman, Bane, Black Adam, Cheetah, Swamp Thing. For as long as I've been playing this game, and as long as I've been playing those characters, and I'm still no closer to completing some of their gear sets. Jeez, even with that one argument, even with this argument, which is supposed to give me more gear for the character I'm playing as, doesn't help very much. If at all. Hopefully with the gear they have for MK11, because I think it was a YouTuber who said that they're going to keep doing the whole gear system for Mortal Kombat 11. But technically, I haven't seen that announced or confirmed. But if they're doing it for Mortal Kombat 11, it'll be something good. Especially for characters like Jax. All I know is one thing I really would like to see them do for MK11, that hopefully they will not mess up, is bringing Liu Kang and some of the other Revenants back to life. Because seriously, seeing Liu Kang as one of the bad guys under any kind of situation, it's almost like how I feel about Superman being one of the bad guys. It's, I wouldn't say heartbreaking. It's not that serious. But still, I'm just so used to Superman fighting on the side of good that having him as one of the villains, kind of like in the Injustice games. Same thing with Liu Kang. I just don't like the idea of them being the bad guys. Although, unlike Superman, Liu Kang's only working with the villains like Quan Chi against his will, being a freaking Revenant. I kept saying that I was hoping that it would be in some point during Mortal Kombat, not 9, Mortal Kombat X, that he would come back to life. That sure as hell didn't happen. So hopefully with MK11 they'll fix all that. Well, what do you know? I completed all gear sets for Cheetah. This has to make her not only the only main character I play, but the only character in general who I have all gear sets completed for. And unfortunately, I can't even say the same thing about Swamp Thing. Although I think I played Cheetah the longest before I played Swamp Thing. Because I remember I was not familiar with Swamp Thing when he was announced for Injustice 2. But I was definitely very familiar with Black Adam and Superman and Bane from the first game. And Cheetah, who when she ended up becoming one of my favorite excuse me, not just DC villains, but like DC characters in general. Cheetah's one of my favorites. So seeing her announced for Injustice 2, I got excited. I said I'm definitely gonna play her, our main Cheetah. And the fact that she's a grappler is just more of a bonus. But I remember at first I tried to give Swamp Thing a try, but I didn't really like his moveset at first. It was kind of less straightforward compared to the other grapplers I've played. But it's like the more I played him, the more I started to like him, and that's what led to me looking up Swamp Thing on the internet, like on Wikipedia, and that's how he became one of my favorites when I started reading about him. I don't know reason why now. I gotta find. There's a comic book store not too far from where I live. I gotta go to that store and see if they got any old school Swamp Thing comics, like from the Alan Moore run or Saga of the Swamp Thing. It's just so stupid how so many people say how some characters should be left out due to not being popular enough. And some people refer to that as character relevance or relevancy. And I'm like, that's a stupid thing, talking about a character being relevant. And I'm like, in what way is any comic book character relevant in any situation? Like, if anything, I don't want a character in the game just because they're relevant, be it in comics or in the game's story. I just want to have that character in the game because I like them. And also, one of the issue is somehow that character not being popular, then that's what they do. To put a character like Black Adam or Swamp Thing in the game, and people will eventually become curious about that character, and they'll be all like, wait, who the hell is this guy? And that's how people will develop curiosity over that character and eventually look them up, and depending on the person or depending on the situation, start to like the character over time. Because during Injustice 1, I didn't know shit about a lot of the characters in the game, especially Black Adam. So when he was announced, I was like, what the fuck is this guy? And it was from there that eventually he became one of my favorite characters in this game and in comic books. Same thing with Swamp Thing. I didn't know shit about Swamp Thing until he was announced for Injustice 2. Oh, there we go. Damn, has it been that long since I last played Supergirl? Apparently. Well, I do like how, just like Black Adam, she has gear that removes her cape. Too bad the same can't be said for Superman. I understand capes are sort of iconic for Superman's costume, but I think he looks good without a costume. I mean, not costume, but without a cape. Like during the reign of the Superman storyline, or at some point after he was killed, or supposed to be killed by Doomsday, when he came back to life and wore that black costume that didn't have a cape to it. I kind of thought that cape looked a lot cool, or that costume looked a lot cooler than anything else he wore prior to it. Who the hell is sending me random ass friend requests? I don't remember playing with this guy. Wow, it takes her that long to cancel into her. That was it called? Spaceport? Damn, it really has been that long since I last played Supergirl in this game. I think it's been raining non-stop outside. I remember just yesterday, I saw the rain had died down a little bit, and I thought to myself, I might as well just go outside, go get something to eat. So I went down to this Little Caesars, not too far from where I live, and decided to go get something to eat from there. But it was like, as I was halfway down the street to the place, the rain started coming down hella hard. And I'm thinking to myself, fuck. Should have known better this was gonna happen. So after I ordered my food and I had to started walking back, I'm thinking to myself, please Lord, just give me a break already. Like, it was bad. It was bad enough that it was raining so heavily, but then the wind started picking up too. I was like, seriously, in the freaking wind too? Unless there's a major disaster going on that requires the rain, let it stop raining just for once. In fact, I think it's been constantly raining since last night. I don't think it's ever stopped raining since yesterday.
I've got more power than you said, Adam.
You're not ready to unleash it.
I'll be the judge of that.
Damn, I cannot remember the combo. All right, supposed to mash it. Oh, give me a break. Wow, that was terrible. I do not remember being that bad with Supergirl. Dang it, I don't play it that much compared to other characters.
Stop this now! I can't believe you turned traitor. I was a traitor when I joined you.
There's that one interaction they have where they talk about those charity races they had. That's one of my favorites.
You betrayed me, right?
That's not it.
Raced many times. Think I'm a bit too fast for you. We'll see about that.
Well, it is true. According to DC's official canon list for the top 10 fastest speedsters, Superman's not even top 3. He just misses the top 3 at number 4. Motherfucker, stop with the damn friend request. Wow, I can't believe I missed that. Damn, the wind's blowing like crazy outside. Glad I'm not out there right now.
Nerve to come back here. Can't run from a fight, can I? You'll wish you had.
Not so subtle threat. That should not be blockable. Fuck is this guy? Seriously. Read the chat? The hell? Maybe if I could, if the damn comments were posting. I wonder if it would have been considered overpowered to have characters super moves as like a separate bar or separate meter from the bar or meter they regularly have. Oh damn it! Like have it so people can do meter burn moves, but they have a separate meter specifically just for supers. That way people can do meter burn combos and still have their super moves separate whenever they want to. Just have super moves be heavily scaled in combos. That'd be a good way to balance it.
Protector of the gloom.
Beast.
Something much deeper.
Now I know for a fact that Swamp Thing normally spends his time in it's the swamps of Louisiana. It said that he usually spends his time, even though he's the protector of the green or the plant life of all Earth in general. But still, it's kind of funny how the stage he made his debut, or not his debut, the stage he was revealed in. It was a trailer where he was fighting Damian Wayne, and it was in Slaughter Swamp, which is this stage. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, Slaughter Swamp is usually where Solomon Grundy resides. Too bad we don't have Solomon Grundy in this game. I don't know why he didn't get to return. You know, hopefully the next time I stream, the chat will start working again. This is kind of ridiculous. I didn't want to rematch that. Oh well.
My bloodlust is insatiable.
Green blood won't fight.
I'll enjoy the cure just the same.
I understand Cheetah's supposed to be incountable, but the fact that she's more than fine with still killing a plant elemental and eating his organs if he has any is still kind of disturbing. I guess she's just not very picky with her food. Still kind of creepy. Well, cannibalism in general, even in comic books, is very disturbing. Especially with how detailed a lot of artists draw the cannibalistic acts some characters like Cheetah commit. It's like somehow cannibalism always looks more disturbing when characters who are committing the act aren't even zombies. Probably because it's something you expect from zombies, regardless of what media it's in. Wait, I don't think I even needed to burn those 2 bars for that. Oh well, it's done now. It's like almost every team is always guaranteed to have Batman on the team.
I do not wish to kill you. Then your race ends here.
And I'm back. Looks like I didn't miss much. Damn, this guy's Robin's kicking ass. But yeah, I don't do AI battle simulator that often. The only reason why I do the AI battle simulator is only because I need to in order to get some of the characters' gear in this game, like Flash and Cheetah. Are you kidding me? Sometimes I feel like I don't know. I don't like AI battle simulator that much. Like I'd rather do the fighting myself rather than the AI use my characters for me. But at least you can just get all of it by just fast forwarding through it. Whatever. Because due to the fact that it's one of the requirements. One of the requirements in Legendary for Cheetah, you gotta get, I think, 100 or 150 victories in the battle simulator. And I'm like, it would be so much easier if I could just get that many victories just playing as Cheetah, as opposed to letting the computer decide whether if my character will win or not. It's almost like how it feels when you're gambling. Except less likely to ruin your life if you screw up. Still, the amount of requirements they demand of you for the legendary multiverses is stupid. 1 million credits spent, 200 heroes defeated. Well, I completed those first 3. I'm only halfway there. I only need a little less than 50 more. Meter Burn Primal Rage as the final hit. I need about 30 more super move finishes. Still have yet to reach 3 million damage still with Cheetah. Don't know how to make that go any faster. About 31 more Meter Burn Blood Lunge as the final hit. And was it 29 more psychic events, and a little less than 50 AI battle simulators, one with Cheetah on the team. And I've still yet to reach 1,000 match victories. And I really just don't like having to commit myself to one character to get that that legendary gear. It's really no fun. If anything, I'm just trying to get the legendary gear as far as just the sense of accomplishment, rather than ever actually using it in battle. Because I don't even use Swamp Thing or Black Adam's legendary gear that much. Still, it kind of felt like it was worth the trouble of trying to get Swamp Thing's legendary gear, because he was the first one whose legendary I was able to get. There we go. The Avatar season-ending blade. No, what to me, what really would have made the legendary events more worth it was if you get a whole gear set instead of just one piece of gear for each character. It'd be a whole set. So that'd be 5 legendary gears. Yeah. So instead of just this thing that Swamp Thing has, his club, it'd be like, I don't know, maybe some kind of wooden armor or something that covers his whole body. And definitely give more arguments than just this. Swamp Thing gains 4% health regeneration when standing on Abigail's garden, and giving him an air dash. Now that I think about it, some of these things that Swamp Thing has, I feel like should have been part of his default move set. Like Bonsai, small tree under the opponent. The burning Bonsai will follow up with additional tree attack. I feel like that should have been a default thing he could have done from the beginning. Wondrous Meadow. Did I just say metal? Anyways, Wondrous Meadow. Wondrous. Now I'm confusing my words. Swamp Thing spawns a larger initial patch of growth at the beginning of Abigail's garden. Another thing he should have by default. Swamp Juice, don't really care much for that. I mean, his character trait, when you use it, it kind of refills pretty relatively quickly. A lot quicker than most other traits in this game anyway. And Trunk Punch Pull adds Trunk Punch meter burn. Another thing he should have by default. Because most of these are just stuff that just kind of arguments or adds new abilities to some of his pre-existing moves, as opposed to giving him new special moves altogether, like Spine Blast and Sinking Slew. I don't know how to pronounce that. So yeah, those being new moves you can unlock, I'm fine with. The rest of these should have been stuff he had from the start. Trunk Punch Pull, Swamp Juice, Bonsai, and Wondrous Meadow. And I still need to complete this damn gear set. Avatar of the Life's Entity Crown. Entity's Bark, or White Lantern Energy. I still need to somehow get branches of White Lantern Energy and Avatar of the Life Entities Club. Man, they really make you work for some of this gear. Why do I have all this gear saved? It's too bad as far as those premiere skins, there's not more characters who have those. Like another premiere skin they could have given for Superman would have been something like Cyborg Superman, or just him dressed as Clark Kent. Like just give him the trench coat, fedora hat, glasses, and all of that. Or maybe give him gear that makes him look more, that makes him wear his classic outfit, or look more like his Earth 2 counterpart. Like give more characters, either give more gear pieces, or gear sets I should say, more gear sets that look a lot like their costumes from whatever generations ago, or more premier skins in general that makes them look more like how they did when the characters first debuted. Like with Swamp Thing, the original Swamp Thing, Alex Olsen, looks a lot different from how the current Swamp Thing, Alec Collin, or the second Swamp Thing looks. That would have been pretty cool. Get Swamp Thing a premier skin or gear set that makes him look more like his original counterpart. Because so far it's just wood armor. And I got no problem with armor in this game, because yeah, I can't really imagine Swamp Thing wearing any metal for whatever reason. But I feel like with both his default design and his gear, they could have given him some better stuff. Same thing with Cheetah. Well, I can't really think of anything else to do now. I really need to get PlayStation Plus again so I can start playing online with some people. Yeah, maybe I'll do that tomorrow. Just go to the store and buy a PlayStation Plus card. Usually I just get the 3-month subscription since it's usually a lot cheaper. But I don't know. I keep telling myself I should save up my money to buy the year-long subscription. But I don't know. I don't have that much patience. But I guess we'll see by the end of the month. So I'm just gonna end this stream here because I really can't think of anything else to do in this game. I said earlier that I was thinking about streaming Resident Evil 4 later on as well. And most likely I'll probably do that. So thanks to everyone who tuned in. And man, it really sucks trying to close out these sort of videos or coming up with an outro. But I'm just gonna go. Y'all have a good day.